Hi and welcome. If you remember the last part of the Doomsday Iceberg, I mentioned wanting to dive more into some of the instances of mass hysteria over the years, and I kind of want to dig a little deeper into the phenomenon and see what more or less caused these instances and how the people at the time solved the problems. For those that don't know, mass hysteria, also known as mass insanity, or even by its medical term, mass psychogenic illness, is the rapid spread of an illness or the symptoms of an illness among a group of people with no clear cause or reason, oftentimes with it happening to a group, then passing with no permanent or lasting effects on those afflicted. And the weirder thing about a lot of these instances is they usually have no concrete cause. There's often speculation, but nothing that can directly pinpoint what exactly caused them. I will be touching on some of the instances I talked about in the iceberg video, as well as a few others going over the hypothesized reasons these outbreaks did occur, but please keep in mind I am in no way a licensed psychologist or medical professional in any sense of the term. With all that being said, I thank you for watching as I try to explain something I am in no way qualified to explain. Starting off, we have Straussberg, Holy Roman Empire, modern day France, the year 1518. The incident began in July when a woman named Frau Trophia, the original dancing queen, got up and decided to begin dancing in the street on her own, with others soon joining her. Several historical documents, including doctor's notes, historical records from the church, local news, and even city council records, all corroborate that these people were in fact dancing, and nothing else. No one was having a seizure or going in any kind of shock. It appeared that disco fever was in full effect in Straussberg. By August of that year, the number of those afflicted reached roughly 400, but this wasn't all Charleston and Flossing, as while it is disputed in some documents, many others report that up to 15 people would die each day from strokes, heart attacks, exhaustion, or going left instead of right during the cha-cha slide. Now you may be wondering, what did the city do about all these people dancing in the street? Because, well, you can't just have the peasants getting jiggy with it all the time. They have to work and pay taxes to the empire. And that's where the stuff starts to get wild. Doctors at the time believed the dancers were suffering from what they called hot blood. What that is, I don't know. But they told the city council that the best thing they could do is just ride it out and help the people dance their hot blood out of the systems. So that's what they did. The city government built a stage, hired some professional dancers, and even a band. Hoping to make this entire ordeal better for those getting through it. But inadvertently made the problem worse, as those who weren't affected saw the stage, band, everyone dancing, and decided to join in thinking it was a party. How no one saw that being the outcome still baffles even the smartest minds today. So what did the people do after the foolproof make it a party plan failed? Well, they called in the church, of course. Straussberg was under the control of the Holy Roman Empire, and if there's one thing we know about the Romans and Catholics, it's that dancing and fun weren't allowed. Come September, the church said that these people had all been cursed by Saint Vitus and needed their holy intervention. So all those who had not stopped popping and locking, either due to fatigue or just not being dead, were told to Congo line their way to a mountain shrine, where exorcisms were performed and the people were cured. Now, I know what you're thinking. That's ridiculous. What was really wrong with them? Well, there are two major theories explaining what caused Straussberg's Funk Fest of 1518. The first theory being the dancing was stress and superstition induced. The region of the city afflicted had a serious disease and starvation problem, and Frau may have just had a mental breakdown from it all and began dancing to deal with the stress, which led to others to join her as it seemed to take the burden off these issues. So mix these people who are dancing to fix their troubles in the world with those who are told by their leaders that they had been cursed to dance by a saint, it kinda checks out. The second being mass food poisoning. It's speculated that some of the rye used to grow the city's bread at the time had been infected with ergot, a fungus that grows on grains and produces an alkaline that when ingested it has very similar effects to LSD, leading scholars to believe that, at the very least, Frau and the first few to join her were just tripping balls. with others soon joining in as it looked like fun. Moving on, we're going to Africa, 1962. Just outside the village of Kahashahash, in the newly formed country of Tanganyika, a new epidemic is forming. When in January of that year, 3 students at an all-girls school came down with a serious case of the giggles. The laughter quickly spread to 95 of the 159 students, and teachers began to worry as students couldn't concentrate since their laughing fits would last anywhere from a few hours to 16 days. Eventually, the school was forced to close down and release the girls into the local populace. The virus quickly spread to the local village, and by the end of May, 217 more children had been afflicted. By June, it had spread to the Ramashini, I butchered that, girls' middle school near Bukoba, where 48 more students got the laughs. Side effects of the ha-has included fainting, respiratory problems, rashes, crying, screaming, and even the farts. There were even some reports of violence, but I couldn't find any first-hand confirmation on them. After 18 months, the laughter finally died down. All in all, 14 schools had shut down and roughly 1,000 people had gotten the giggles. Now, once again, you may ask, what caused this? And it can actually be reasonably pointed towards stress. See, in 1961, Tanganyika had gotten its independence from the United Kingdom. While the independence was short-lived since they fused with Zanzibar, forming the modern-day Tanzania in 1964, for that short time, things can be really stressful, especially for young kids. Losing the safety net, being part of a larger empire, and living in a new country trying to figure out its footing can really do damage to someone mentally. And to add to that, many of the students in the region had reported feeling stressed over the new government and ideologies forming, along with the higher standards from parents and teachers due to their newly found independence. Which all kind of makes sense to me. I mean, people react weirdly to high stress. Just look at the Coney 2012 guy. I mean, that was all stress right there. Fast forward now to Japan, 1997. A small indie game known as Pokemon is released. You may have heard of it, and the children loved it. The game quickly took off, spawning merchandise, trading cards, and a television series. You may have seen it also. Just as everything seems to be taking off for the little indie franchise that could, tragedy struck. On December 16th, 1997, the episode known as Electric Soldier Porygon airs on TV Tokyo, and it happens. Halfway through the episode, flashing lights, litter screens of thousands of homes, and hundreds of children are hit with symptoms ranging from nausea to bad vision, shortness of breath, fainting, convulsions, epileptic seizures, and even hypnosis. Because of all this, over 600 children are rushed to the hospital. After everything was all said and done, roughly 12,000 children were afflicted. TV Tokyo and the Pokemon Company issued apologies.
Sorry.
The police conducted an investigation, and the episode was pulled from syndication. 24 years later, it still hasn't been aired in Japan or any other country. And this spread of Poke Panic has since gone down as one of the largest instances of mass hysteria in recent years. Now, given the scene in question, there's no doubt in my mind that some of these kids did actually have epileptic reactions to the show, but not upwards of 12,000. In fact, of the 600 initially taken to the hospital by ambulance, only around 150 were actually admitted, and only 2 were there for longer than 2 weeks. Most recovered in the ambulance on their way to the hospital. There was even a study done on 103 of these kids for 3 years after the incident that found the majority had no symptoms or follow-on seizures. Which is what really makes all of this really jarring, since mass hysteria typically happens to a group of people who are physically with each other, not in separate homes, watching the same show. Local news agencies did report on the incident, not only showing the scene in question, but listing all the side effects it had on children, and there is direct correlation with that causing a second wave of children needing to be taken to the hospital or just experiencing the symptoms psychosomatically. Mix the hearsay about the episode itself on the schoolyard and massive coverage from the news, and you have the perfect combination for more children to experience seizures and the like. By 2001, most reports conclude that most of these children were victims of mass hysteria brought on by the news reports stating that other children had experienced epileptic seizures. Rewind back to Mississippi, 1976. 15 school children fall to the ground withering in pain. School officials and police believe the cause to be drug use, but all the students came up clean. The following day, a third of the local student population skipped school in fear of being hexed, thinking the 15 students were cursed for some reason. Information on this incident was scarce and hard to find, so if you know where I can find more information, tell me down below. And finally, our final stop. Portugal, May 2006. Hundreds of students across the country are coming down with an illness. Symptoms include rashes, dizziness, and difficulty breathing. What could be the cause of such a vile disease, you may ask? Strawberries with sugar. No, not the fruit. A popular teen drama in Portugal airing from 2003 to 2012, similar to Degrassi or Skins, one episode aired when the characters on the show suffered from an illness with the same symptoms that the students in real life were suffering with. It didn't take long for government medical officials to deduce that this was simply mass hysteria and nothing else. After a short while, the students returned to school with no lasting ailments or issues, as if nothing had happened. This one stands out to be rather odd. Unlike Poke Panic of '97, that had nationwide news coverage, Strawberry with Sugar virus media reporting never got farther than local newspapers, so the media did very little in making the situation worse. Which means this cause of mass hysteria can be solely linked to the episode in question and nothing else. During the investigations, many doctors accused the students of faking the funk and even using the incident as an excuse to get out of their end of school year finals. How true that is? Up to you to determine. But it naturally brought an end to the Strawberries with Sugar virus. And that's about it. There's a lot more interesting cases, such as the meowing nuns, the War of the Worlds scare, and even fear of child daycare workers partaking in satanic rituals. I encourage you to look more into these on your own. I mean, there's a lot of really neat cases of stuff like this happening. The social media stuff is linked below, so follow me if you really want to. I often put dumb stuff on Twitter. And why not click subscribe or tell me how much I suck in the comments? I'm always down for some feedback. And with all that being said, I'm out. Bye-bye. Love ya.